What's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense. This is breaking news. It seems like Diddy just can't stay out of the news. Anyway, like the video as the intro plays, because we got a lot to get into. A hell of a lot.
Make it make sense. What I love about Mims, make it make sense. He's a YouTuber. He gets the court record. So he gets the cases.
Make it make sense. You know what was up.
Because Diddy, you're going to jail.
In lieu of my normal intro, I want to do something a little different because the first part of this conversation is about to be about Carlton.
Me, because there's some hot white out here tonight. Okay, now.
Hey, Alfonso.
Now, I got to say, listen, I have been known to fuck some white girls in my lifetime.
Yeah! Go, Alfonso, go!
Okay, now I have spent my life on some TMZ.
Yes!
And every time you see me in a club, guess who I walk out with?
Who?
A lovely blonde white chick.
Yeah! It's just like fucking OJ.
Every motherfucking time.
I think you full of shit, motherfucker.
And I can tell them, and I can think of better when I think I'm home or the mold.
Come on now.
I take a break, I break them down. Come on. Every time I want to leave, every time I want to think I'm in a house, I make a break them down. Come on. I want a little white chick. I don't know what I say, but I get everybody want to say what? Come on, get a white chick, get in the house, get come on, bring it down.
Now, that was in Carlton's own words. I'm not going to do that to y'all. Like the video as the intro plays, because we got a lot to get into. We do not have a lot of time.
Make it make sense to me intellectually.
What I love about Mims, make it make sense. He's a YouTuber. He gets the court record. So he gets the cases.
Make it make sense. You know what was up.
And don't you forget that.
Big Mims. Surfer.
Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense.
Can you release me?
You want me to let you go?
Yes, please. I'm sorry for everything. If you let go, I won't be in the streets no more.
You're not going to work on the streets no more and be out here and about? You give me your word you're going to take off out of here, not stick around?
I'll leave, okay? I won't ever do it. I'll be a boy for you. I won't work my looks no more. Excuse my beauty.
Excuse your beauty. Okay.
Okay, y'all, so let's get to it. Last night, we had some tough conversations. We talked about Busta. We talked about whether, the accusations that were being made about Busta and his sexuality. The real thing is people technically were not going to accept him if the man is. We don't know if he's gay, bisexual, whatever, straight. We don't know what his sexuality is, but we do know that in the 90s, he would not have had the career that he had. He would not have been accepted. That was a hard conversation we had last night. We had a conversation about Alfonso. Alfonso posted this. I don't need or ever want that man to do anything for me as it pertains to Tyler Perry. And I had questions. I didn't quite understand it because of what I've known about Alfonso. I don't get Alfonso, but we can have tough conversations. I hate when people say somebody is whitewashed. I hate that. Speaking a certain way doesn't make you whitewashed. However, with that being said, certain people do add affectations to their voice to give them closer proximity to another ethnicity. It's not just, quote unquote whitewashed. It's the Madonna who decided she didn't want to be known as a person who was more provocative. So she wanted to be a proper English woman and started speaking in a weird English accent.
Check.
Just give me a fan. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can't even think to answer a question.
I believe she's from like New York or New Jersey. Same with Lindsay Lohan. Y'all remember how Lindsay developed a Middle Eastern accent strangely?
With me walking, going. Whereas the paparazzi may be across the street, I didn't know. And they crucified me for it in America.
Iggy Azalea is a whole Australian woman who speaks like an Australian Valley girl, but she uses a Southern Black accent to where we can have conversations. But with Alfonso, where he went wrong with me, and I'm not telling you guys not to like him. If you want to support him on America's Funniest Videos, that's great. But I don't think the Black community turned our back on him because he dates white women. I think his behaviors are just here.
Dance and everything. Yeah. Well, he said in a recent interview, I can't sing the song, but I'll do the dance. But he said he doesn't feel accepted by the Black community, and he even made a sweeping statement saying that I'm never going to fully be supported in a Black house, which I don't necessarily agree with.
I love Carlton on The Fresh Prince. I just feel like Carlton, who he was on The Fresh Prince, bled over into his real life. I don't think that people were looking at his wife saying, we're not going to support you. I feel like that's your own issues. Do you know how many well-to-do Black actors and sports people there are? A lot who don't date in their own race. It is what it is. Oh, she's from Detroit, Michigan. Thank you. Madonna's from Detroit, but she all of a sudden...
We support him. We accept him. But one of the big things of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was his character of being,
Carlton Banks.
Carlton Banks being a little Uncle Thomas, so
preppy, privileged.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's carried over into his personal life. Some people don't know how to separate fact and fiction and real life from television characters. So that's hurt him.
Well, and he says that he's also in a mixed relationship, so that he said, I'm never going to be white. I'm never going to be accepted in the Black house, saying that he felt like the character, ostracized him from the Black community, as well as him being now in a mixed relationship. And, folks on Twitter and social media, if you're not careful and you soak in all that hate,
I don't think that's the case. I say date who you want, but I think Carlton's hangups were ever present in that. Was he typecasted or was he Carlton? Somebody said he was typecasted in that role. It is what it is. Shout out to him. He's clearly working. I had a conversation last night. It always starts with a conversation. And they felt like I had a bias for Tyler Perry. And I'm like, how could I have a bias for Tyler Perry? I put on a cape for Christian Keys, and I was one of the only people who actually came out and said Tyler Perry's name. I gave the information from my source, who said that it was Tyler Perry, who talked about Christian Keys getting a payout. But I'm capping for somebody who retracted their statement. Christian Keys I'm caping. Christian Keys literally took his video down where he addressed all of the allegations, where he told us that he had recordings and he was going to bring it to the police because he just wanted to make sure nobody else went through this. And then he retracted. Holding a bias would be if I did not tell you guys the full story. And the full story is I caped for somebody who retracted their statement. So as of now, the only people who have publicly said anything about Tyler Perry is Monique, and I believe Miss Sophia. I don't have a bias. I put it all out there. But the other parts of that is maybe he does know some inside things about Tyler Perry. But there was this video of him and Will Smith that it's a little, y'all can watch it and y'all let me know.
Watch Will. Titty grab. Then he grabs his ass. Will is molesting Carlton on television. Titty grab again, then the face, and now he's going to grab his titty again, then the dick. Me too. Me too. What are you doing? Get some of that money, Carlton. Sue his ass. How long has he been putting this on?
You know, we and I'll leave it at that. That's just I had a conversation with somebody who wanted me to go a little bit more in depth on Carlton, and it was just a simple thing. I thought what he said was funny. I understood that it was a jab at him, and he responded in the jab. I didn't understand why he jabbed Tyler Perry, and that was just that simple. Anyway, let's move on, because this stuff with Diddy hit the fan late last night. After I got off live, I read this article that Rolling Stone put out. They had sourced it through 50 different people. Sourced it through 50 people, and we're talking all the way back to college days. Guys, we got like over 1,800 in the chat. Definitely hit that like button. We're about to get into some unheard stuff. And we thought we'd already heard it all with Diddy. It said, Bad Boy for Life, Sean Combs' history of violence. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs was hip-hop's boisterous showman. Now dozens of former friends, employees, and bad boy artists allege an abusive, menacing figure behind the facade. Let's see. As he took the stage at the BET Awards in June 2022 to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award, Sean Diddy Combs was elated. Yeah, he bellowed, punctuating his words with triumphant jumps. The adoring crowd who gave him a sustained standing ovation included his mother and children, longtime friends, and music industry peers Kanye West, Janelle Monáe, Babyface, and Lil Wayne. Also, I believe Gina was in the crowd, and I believe Young Miami was in the crowd. I believe Sarah Chapman was in the crowd. And he closed his eyes and repeatedly thanked God. He got down on one knee and praised his mother. He name-checked a laundry list of people who mentored and inspired him. Anything I do is through love, Combs proclaimed early in a 9-minute speech. That's what I evolved to be, and that's what I'm doing right now. But soon Combs struck a more somber tone. I was in a dark place for a few years, he said. I got to give a special thank you to the people that was really there for me. He listed friends and advisors. Then looking directly into the camera, he added, Cassie, for holding me down in the dark times. Love. He raised one hand to make an L sign and held his gaze steadily silent for several seconds. Now, y'all, the straight shooters, we've been following this. You're on TV proclaiming that you love her and you appreciated her for the dark times, but the day that she actually met up with you for dinner to tell you that she was no longer going to be with you, she was going to return the car that you had given her, which basically meant that she left the relationship with nothing besides some jewelry and a drug habit. You're saying you love her on TV, but you forcibly R-worded her the day she broke up with you. But for the television cameras, you're saying thank you for being with me with the dark times. Well, the dark times was the whole effing relationship. From the beatings to the drugs to holding her friend over the balcony. Where's the love? Combs and Cassandra Cassie Ventura, a former singer for his iconic Bad Boy record label, had split 4 years earlier, but he had been openly pining for her ever since. He posted photos of her online and urged her to listen to Michael Jackson's The Lady in My Life. He publicly congratulated her on her first pregnancy with her husband. His comments at the award shows were part of the pattern of behavior, one that had been tormenting Ventura for years. When she learned of her ex's last remark, sources say Ventura was distressed. She was also resolute. Almost 18 months later, in November 2023, Ventura sued Combs, claiming he had held her in a violent form of sexual servitude throughout their relationship and R-worded her upon their final breakup in 2018. She invoked Combs' BET speech in her filing. Also, guys, we just reviewed the court case with the newest accuser, and as she told him she no longer could be around him, he R-worded her as well. Let's not forget that. It's a pattern. Allegedly, according to the lawsuits that we read. She invoked Combs' BET speech in her filing. For Miss Ventura, the dark times were those she spent trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking. She said Combs' brutal beatings, one of them captured in a harrowing hotel surveillance video obtained by CNN in May, left her with bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and extensive trauma. For Grammy-winning songwriter Tiffany Red, a friend of Ventura's who worked closely with the singer during the height of her alleged abuse, Combs' words from the BE stage had been a taunt. It's like harassment, she explains. You're still effing with her. Leave her alone. Leave her the F alone. In the 5 years after her breakup with Combs, Ventura remained silent. While he was posting about her pregnancy in 2019, she was negotiating in distress behind the scenes to escape her Bad Boy contract, Red says. Despite Ventura signing a 10-album deal in 2006, Bad Boy only released one studio album by her. Combs was allegedly trying to tie her separation agreement to a non-disparagement clause. It's not like we were negotiating with just her record label. We were negotiating with her abuser. Through her lawyer, Ventura declined to speak for this article. Combs did not respond to a request for comment on this allegation. At some point, Ventura checked herself into a rehabilitation center to deal with the physical and psychological repercussions of her time with Combs and found renewed purpose in being a mom. Her lawsuit says when she eventually gathered her strength and stepped forward, a flurry of other lawsuits followed. 5 more women have since accused Combs of the R word or violent sexual assault dating as far back as 1990. 2 of whom claim that Combs secretly recorded their sexual encounters and showed the footage to others without their consent, members of the group Jodeci. Music producer Little Rodney Jones also sued, alleging Combs groped his genitals and forced him to solicit sex workers and perform sex acts to the pleasure of Mr. Combs. While Combs would eventually take responsibility for the assault captured on surveillance video, he has vehemently denied all of the other allegations against him. The day Ventura filed her complaint, he blasted it as a shakedown based on outrageous lies. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Miss Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail, his lawyer, Ben Brafman, said. In response, Ventura's lawyer, Douglas Wigder, said Combs offered Ms. Ventura 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this suit. The parties came to an undisclosed settlement within 24 hours of the filing. Not his mom is too quiet. April, thank you so much for joining the membership. Butterfly Mama. Alfonso was also a teen star who's been around for a long time. We want let his character go, so he is artistically stuck. I kind of get that, but I don't know if I fully agree with it in terms of Alfonso. I think Alfonso has his own hangups, and I think that we're in 2024. If you date and marry a white woman, we'll still accept you. Black people are the most forgiving community out there. We'll accept you. I think he just has his own hangups and likes to say things like this.
Me, because there's some hot white out here tonight. Okay, now. Hey, Alfonso. Now I gotta say, listen.
I think he's Carlton. But again, we can agree to disagree. I love it when you guys have a difference of opinion. I just, let's see. When his 4th R-word accuser sued in December, Combs 54 issued another passionate denial. Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I've sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for my truth. For many, the lurid allegations against Combs were jarring, in part because he had risen to such great heights as a bankable bon vivant who threw the best parties from New York City to the Hamptons to Hollywood. He's the pop cultural stalwart who worked under a parasol held by his campy valet, Farnsworth Bentley. Not his campy valet. Farnsworth is never going to talk. Held by his campy valet, Farnsworth Bentley and Saint-Tropez, and turned up at a Met Gala in a Swarovski crystal-encrusted tuxedo and floor-length cape. He rapped about Bentleys and Benjamins and held court at his over-the-top annual white parties attended by Leonardo DiCaprio, Beyonce, Mariah Carey, and Martha Stewart. He called himself the Great Gatsby and considered circus showman P.T. Barnum his muse. Now, the spotlight Combs constantly chased is trained on his alleged crimes. In staggering scenes that underscored his fall from grace, Heavily armed Homeland Security agents stormed a sprawling Los Angeles and Miami estates as part of a federal sex trafficking investigation on March 25th. Investigators tore through his offices and bedrooms, leaving cables dangling from a command center and multiple safes wide open. 3 gleaming Grammys and an Oscar sat atop a gutted console like relics of a crumbling regime. A crestfallen Combs was later seen alone, a cell phone hanging useless in his hand as he slowly paced around Miami Opelika Airport. His vacation in the Bahamas was canceled, his once fortified home was breached, his adult sons handcuffed, and his empire on the brink, and I'll just add this, and his drug mule arrested while headed to the Bahamas to take the daughters on spring break with cocaine and weed in the drug mule's sack. While the raids made global headlines, the silence from Combs' famous friends was palpable. This felt different than before, when he could use a checkbook, a high-powered attorney, and a media blitz to overcome scrapes with the law, when his charisma, influence, and connections would allow him to shake off allegations of violence or outcry from his disenfranchised artists. Reparations is getting closer and closer. Former Bad Boy artist Mace said a day after the raids, the big payback. Don't he still allege that Mace owes him about $2 million? I feel like I heard him do an interview with the Breakfast Club, and he was trying to allege that Mace owed him $2 million. Why do I feel Farnsworth won't talk? Farnsworth, I believe, now lives in Atlanta with his wife, an actress from the movie White Chicks, his children, and he does like a lot of like charity stuff. He is so far removed from that lifestyle, I don't think he'll ever talk, and I don't think that most people will talk. I think that we're just getting, in Puffy's career spanning all the way back to like 1990, we're scratching the surface of people who have stories about this man. But Farnsworth, I don't see him saying anything. Somebody said he has an ironclad NDA. Now, if Puffy committed a crime, we now know that those NDAs are not valid. If he wanted to say something or knew something or saw something that was illegal, your NDA cannot protect you from that. Over the past 6 months, Rolling Stone conducted dozens of interviews with Combs' former friends, acquaintances, employees, and bad boy artists, as well as industry insiders. Out of 300 plus people contacted for this investigation, more than 50 were willing to speak about their experiences. Several would do so only off the record, citing a fear of retribution. Some requested compensation in exchange for their stories. Rolling Stone does not pay for interviews. Vlad TV does. Many declined to participate, wanting to distance themselves from Combs. I'm trying to leave that part of my life behind, says one former employee. That might have been Farnsworth right there. Those who did speak about Combs describe a complicated man with opposing personas. Outwardly, they see a tastemaker who is unapologetically driven, generous, and jovial, even silly at times. He can be the same privately, but associates who got, well, if you're a man, he's real nice to the men. But the associates who got close enough to him discovered something darker behind the facade. A menacing figure who desperately wants to be accepted and admired, who uses public declarations of devotion, splashy donations, and boasts that he is brother love to hide an undercurrent of alleged abuse and violence that in one previously unreported allegation traces back to before his career even started. Combs wielded his growing power to bend people to his will, sources claim, sending staffers to win back one-time girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, beating a labeled executive bloody after he became romantically involved with Combs' ex-partner, Kim Porter. I told you guys about that. He was in Central Pay for who runs LaFace? Not Babyface, but the other guy, L.A. Reid. He was in Central Pay. He showed up to the man's room who was allegedly dating Kim, and they proceeded to get this man. And allegedly trying to solicit sex from a woman on his payroll. As part of this investigation, Rolling Stone sent Combs a detailed list of questions about the new impending allegations. He did not specifically address any of them. Mr. Combs cannot comment on settled litigation, will not comment on pending litigation, and cannot address every allegation picked up by the press from any source, no matter how unreliable, his lawyer, Jonathan Davis, tells Rolling Stone. We are aware that the proper authorities are conducting a thorough investigation and therefore have confidence any impromptu issues will be addressed in the proper form. Where the rules distinguish facts from fiction. Now, y'all, that is a very different response that we're getting from the attorney now, because prior to that Cassie video coming out, we weren't hearing his attorney speak like that. Everything that he was saying was a shakedown. Now, all of a sudden, we're aware of an investigation. Okay. Joy Dickerson Neal, who is suing Combs for sexual assault, tells Rolling Stone that her decision to come forward isn't about money. It's about making sure the world sees that this man who rose to the level of an icon is actually sick and has left so many victims in the wake of his unpunished, disgusting behavior for years. For Ventura, Combs presented as her flashy, established 37-year-old label boss when he pulled her into a bathroom and forcibly kissed her on her 21st birthday in 2007, leaving her in tears, according to her complaint. She says he was holding the keys to her music career when he pressured her to consume drugs and have sex that year. Combs quickly became deeply entrenched in every aspect of her life, paying for her apartment, having her medical records sent directly to him, and lashing out for perceived slights, the lawsuit says. Don't forget, he asked her, what do you call your dad or your grandpa? And when she said Pop-Pop, he said, you need to call me Pop-Pop moving forward. There's some sexual deviant shit going on with this man, y'all. When Ventura tried to move on and had a brief romantic relationship with musician, Combs allegedly beat her. Combs later told Ventura he planned to blow up the rapper's car in his driveway, the lawsuit claims. In a statement in the New York Times, it was confirmed that the car was exploded. This is all true, he said. In her suit, Ventura says she learned to blindly submit to Combs to avoid vicious beatings. Eventually, her lawsuit claims the abuse extended to sex trafficking, with Combs ordering her to slather herself in oil, get high and drunk, and have intercourse with male sex workers while Combs pleasured himself and filmed the interactions, which he dubbed freak-offs. She learned to disassociate during these horrific encounters. The public got, I can't show y'all this photo. We got to take that down for a minute. Yeah, they don't really be playing about this particular photo. The public got a disturbing window into Combs' treatment of Ventura in the surveillance video unearthed by CNN. In it, a towel-clad Combs is seen pursuing a barefoot and fleeing Ventura after he allegedly punched her in the face during a freak-off in Los Angeles hotel in 2006. At an elevator bank, Combs throws Ventura to the floor, kicks her, stomps her, and attempts to drag her back to the room before grabbing what appears to be a vase off a table and hurling it in her direction. Ventura described the incident in her lawsuit and alleged Combs paid the hotel $50,000 to obtain the footage. Okay. After years in silence and darkness, I am finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships. Ventura said in a statement accompanying her lawsuit, this was an opportunity to speak up about the trauma I have experienced and that I will be recovering from for the rest of my life. As Ventura's damning allegations were on the verge of going public, Combs was strategizing, according to Jones, who produced multiple songs on Combs' Grammy-nominated 2023 release, The Love Album. He detailed how he planned to leverage his relationship with celebrity pastor Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact on his public image. Jones wrote in a sworn declaration in April. Jakes did not reply to requests from comment. Now you know good and goddamn well Jakes was not going to reply to a request for comment. Guys, we got over 3,200 in the chat. Let's try to get to 2,000 likes. Take this photo off. Got people calling you Poppy. As Ventura's damning allegations, publicly, Combs seemingly jumped into overdrive, producing positive press. He fulfilled his 1 million promises to his alma mater, Howard University, and the football program at another historically black college, Jackson State University. He launched Empower Global, an e-commerce platform for Black entrepreneurs. And in dropping his new album, proclaiming he was in a love era, he announced that he was giving Bad Boy artists and songwriters their publishing rights back. Only some artists say they were offered rights back, and Danity Kane's Aubrey O'Day said she refused because her offer came with a mandatory non-disclosure agreement. A year before her breakup with Combs, Ventura conceptualized a short film titled Cassie that appears telling in hindsight. In a voiceover speaking about the film's fictionalized romance, she says, how do you just walk away from it and escape it? I just want to be free. Here we go. Part 1. Puff is out here acting crazy. He's beating her. The hotel security footage prompted horrified reactions around the world. Forced to acknowledge his actions, Combs made a rare admission of guilt, but tailored it to that incident. I was effed up. I hit rock bottom, and I make no excuses. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. He claimed he went to therapy and rehab and was truly sorry. Ventura's lawyer said Combs' apology showed his pathetic desperation. Now, y'all, you in rehab, but you going to the Bahamas with your drug mule. Many who watched the footage of the assault were stunned, even those who'd known Combs for years. LaJoyce Brookshire, former publicity executive at Bad Boy, says she was disturbed to learn that these types of actions could have occurred and that Puffy could stand in my face the next day with a straight face. That shakes me to my core. Several women who attended Howard with Combs, however, had seen signs of controlling and abusive personality decades ago. Combs started at the esteemed college in the fall of 1987 and quickly earned a reputation for throwing legendary rowdy parties. Flamboyant and boisterous, he was often seen driving his convertible around campus and passing out flyers. Though he left after his sophomore year, Combs turned Howard into a pipeline for his enterprises, teaming up with future label execs and producers Harvey Pierre, Mark Pitts, and Derek D. Dot, all key figures in Bad Boy's early success. Shantae Page, a former A&R executive for Universal Motown Group, was among those who say they had positive experience with Combs at Howard, calling his iconic parties a once-in-a-lifetime type of vibe. He was a go-getter from the start, she says, always in the know. But other women describe previously unreported incidents involving unwanted touching and fits of rage. One woman says she kept as far away as possible after Combs caressed her back without warning and asked if she would be willing to meet one of his friends. So you were trying to set up freak-offs way before Aaron Hall. Because some people felt like Aaron Hall had kind of touched Diddy's proclivities for watching other people and watching his friends and liking Big Black D and light skin and white nails. They thought that Aaron Hall had set him up, but he's trying to set people up in freak-offs as way back to 87. Another former student recalled that Combs flew off the handle after she objected to him cutting in a cafeteria line. While the moments may seem small, they showed flashes of danger that would soon explode. A third former student recalls how the future mogul would tap on the window of an English class to get a girlfriend to ditch. The visits became noticeably unwelcome. The classmate tells Rolling Stone she would tense up when Combs appeared. The student who sat next to the woman in class recalls, he just had a weird control thing. I felt like she was fearful. The classmate who requested to be anonymous due to fear of retribution says her concerns were validated when Combs appeared outside the school's Harriet Tubman Quadrangle dorm and started screaming in a belligerent manner for his girlfriend to come outside. The classmate says other women soon began running through the halls, knocking on doors in a panic. They were sounding the alarm that Combs, known then by his nickname Puff, was attacking the young woman outside. Puff is out here acting crazy. He's beating her, the fellow student said, according to the classmate. He screamed and hollered and acted a stone fool until she came downstairs. Another Howard student who witnessed the alleged attack tells Rolling Stone, she says Combs used what appeared to be a belt to strike the young woman all over the place. You're not even in school, nigga. You over here going back to school, tapping on windows, trying to set up freak-offs, and beating a college-age girl with a belt outside in front of everybody. This is how this dude thinks. This is why he feels he's going to be able to get away with this stuff, because he has been doing it. This was before he had money. Speaking on condition of anonymity, due to the sensitive nature of the incident, the witness said Combs appeared super angry and was screaming at the top of his lungs. She says he whipped her butt, like really whipped her butt. The witness says the woman was clearly terrorized. She was trying to defend herself a little bit. She was crying, and we were telling him, get off her. We were screaming for her. A third source also recalled the alleged assault to Rolling Stone. The woman at the center of the alleged attack declined comment. Combs was born with a short fuse, telling Jet Magazine he earned his nickname as a kid because he would always huff and puff when he got mad. I had a temper. That's why my friends started calling me Puff, he said. His mom, Janice, a former kindergarten teacher, described him as a ham. Combs barely knew his father, Melvin, a handsome drug dealer working for Harlem Kingpin. He was murdered in 1972 at the age of 33, when Combs was just a toddler. Throughout the years, Combs mourned the loss of a father figure, but Melvin had a profound influence of him nonetheless. Even if we don't know our parents, we still have their DNA in us. We have their genes, Combs said. I have his hustler's mentality, his hustler spirit, his drive, his determination, his swag. Now, we also have allegations of Puffy physically abusing his mom. I think it was Gene Deal who actually physically had to stop him and checked him for doing it. When Janice moved the family from Harlem to the suburb of Mount Vernon, 12 miles north, Combs straddled desperate worlds. In one, he was a defensive back on the football team at his all-boys Catholic high school. In the other, he rode a train to the city, immersing himself in its burgeoning hip-hop scene. I didn't know exactly what he would do, but he was blasting me out of the house with his mixing kit I bought him when he was 13, making that noise, scratching those records. After a taste of celebrity at Howard, Combs itched for more. He was hell-bent on breaking into the music industry, simultaneously attending a college and working a part-time internship at Uptown Records back in New York City. It was Uptown artist Heavy D, a neighbor in Mount Vernon, who brokered the job interview after Combs repeatedly badgered the rapper at their local pizza spot. Former Uptown A&R Kurt Woodley tells Rolling Stone, Combs commuted from Howard for the job, evading the train fare by hiding from the conductor in the bathroom. He dropped out of school to work at Uptown full-time, eventually becoming CEO Andre Harrell's mentee. It's not like we were Okay, that was just a Tiffany Red quote. Combs' ascent at Uptown is by now part of his lore. He helped newcomers Mary J. Blige and Jodeci go multi-platinum after reshaping their images with the help of a underage Misa Hilton. If you haven't seen that video, check that out. He reinvented the remix and ushered hip-hop soul into the cultural lexicon. He threw exclusive Daddy's House parties at the since-shuttered Manhattan hip-hop club Red Zone that even his older Uptown colleagues jockeyed to attend. He had the ability to convince people that whatever he was doing, whatever he was, that it was hot shit. Dan Charnas, author of The Big Payback, The History of Business of Hip-Hop. He understood more than anyone how the innovations of hip-hop, specifically sampling and using classic rap records as a basis for R&B songs, would really be powerful for a generation. And we can't take that from him. As Combs' star was rising at Uptown, his predatory instincts resurfaced, according to the sexual assault lawsuit filed by Joy Dickerson Neal. Joy Dickerson acted opposite of Combs in a 1990 music video and received what she considered a warning from Bronx rapper Sister Soldier to keep her distance, giving his infamous reputation. Sister Soldier did not reply to a request for comment. Dickerson Neal says she reluctantly agreed to a dinner date with Combs in January 91 while she was a college student paying for her studies with a restaurant job. Wary of being alone with him, she requested they dine where she worked. She alleges Combs spiked her drink when she used the restroom and later pressured her into taking a hit of a blunt. She says her legs went rubbery a short time later and that Combs R-worded her at a nearby residence. She also claims Combs filmed the attack and showed the videos to others like a trophy. Through a rep, Combs denied the allegations at the time. This 32-year-old story is made up and not credible. Mr. Combs never assaulted her. Combs' lawyers have moved to dismiss the lawsuit, calling the allegation false, offensive, and salacious. Mike Nice Lewis, who worked with Dickerson Neal at the short-lived PMD Records, tells Rolling Stone that she confided in him at the office about the alleged sexual assault in the early 90s. Combs and Bad Boy came up in conversation, and Lewis said Dickerson Neal's demeanor abruptly changed. Lewis claims Dickerson Neal told him that she had a very bad sexual experience with Combs, keeping her head down as she talked. I believe, Joey says. I just knew from what she was telling me that it still affected her, even 2 years later. As Michelle Keola, attorney for Dickerson Neal, and another accuser, Crystal McKinney, the amount of irreparable harm to my clients' mental health and professional lives cannot be overstated. Within hours of Dickerson Neal's filing a complaint, another woman sued Combs for the R word. Liza Gardner claims she was 16 in 1990 when she and a friend met Combs and Uptown singer-songwriter Aaron Hall at an MCA Records event in Manhattan. Gardner alleges the men were very flirtatious and handsy, feeding the girls drinks and inviting them to Hall's residence for an after-party. She alleges Combs offered her more alcohol at Hall's home in New Jersey and forced her into sex despite her protest. While she was still shocked and traumatized, trying to get dressed, Hall allegedly barged into the room, pinned her down, and R-worded her too. Now, what we know is different from these lawsuits is the women have said that Diddy's D is prepubescent, but Aaron Hall is massive and it hurt them. They said Diddy's was anyway. But again, people think that Diddy got into some of this lifestyle when Aaron Hall was forcing the people of Jodeci and Diddy and them to watch him do people. Gardner claims that irate Combs later showed up where she was staying and began choking her until she almost passed out. Combs feared the women would tell his girlfriend what he and Hall had done, the lawsuit claims. Combs' legal team denied Gardner's allegations, calling them a money grab. But another woman who says she was with Gardner the night of the alleged attack corroborated many details of Gardner's lawsuit in a sworn affidavit filed in mid-May. The woman, who is the younger sister of the friend mentioned in Gardner's complaint, said she has a photo of herself with Gardner and Hall from the evening in question. She recalled frantically looking around Hall's apartment for her sister and Gardner after they disappeared with Combs and Hall. The then 15-year-old said she walked into a room and saw a man watching whatever Puffy was doing with Liza. The woman wrote that she awoke the next morning at a different location where an upset Gardner said Combs had just shown up there and choked her. Hall did not respond to her for a request. Now, that's what the lawsuit said, Callie. The lawsuit, last one, said that she remembered Diddy and it was prepubescent. Those were her words exactly. Back in the Uptown office, Combs' inflated ego, outsized opinions, and Machiavellian scheming were becoming a problem for his peers. He went from internally divisive to openly controversial in December 1991 when he and Heavy D helped organize a celebrity charity basketball game at City College that left 9 people dead, aged 15 to 28, and dozens injured in the stampede. Combs shirked responsibility, claiming he had tried to enlist help from NYPD and that he had personally administered CPR to several people. But an incident report ordered by then Mayor David Dickens faulted him for allowing inexperienced underlings to handle the event planning and found that reckless overpromotion had drawn too many people without tickets to the event. With the city investigating possible criminal charges, lawsuits mounting, and rivals pushing Harrell to cut Combs loose, the Uptown executive urged Combs to lie low. A terrified Combs spent months holed up in Manhattan Hotel with his mother, according to Kirk Burroughs, Bad Boy co-founding partner and president. Burroughs was fired from Bad Boy in 1997. In 2003, he sued Combs for allegedly threatening him with a baseball bat and coercing him into signing over his stake in the company. His claims were dismissed as beyond the statute of limitations. After the controversy subsided and Combs returned to Uptown, he still considered himself Harrell's heir apparent, but his access to his mentor was restricted. He spent much of 1992 producing Blige's landmark debut, What's the 411, gaining redemption in the album's acclaim. Around this time, he found his Uptown imprint, Bad Boy Entertainment, where he could sign his own artists and make extra cash. Burroughs remembers jealous Uptown execs referring to Combs as Satan and flipping him off as they walked by his small office in the Uptown building. Harrell soured on him too. As Woodley recalls, Harrell said, "I'm going to fire Puff. He's getting a little too big for himself. He's bothering people." With pressuring mounting, Harrell fired Combs in 1993. Uptown was supposed to oversee the album release of Combs' newest signee, Christopher Wallace, aka Notorious B.I.G., but Combs was free to find a new home for his fledgling label. The termination was devastating for Combs, Burroughs says, leaving the 23-year-old crying buckets of tears outside of the office. He loved Andre. He loved Uptown. He didn't understand what Bad Boy was going to be. "I cried for a couple days and I felt like I wanted to jump off a building," Combs told Rolling Stones. "I wonder what he was doing to the women in his life while he was upset." Miss Devout Love, thank you for joining the membership. Chaotic Taurus, thank you for joining the membership. A Dose of Sassy Girl, I know you. Thank you for the super sticker. And Goddess Noel, every time you think Diddy can't go lower, a story comes out that takes you straight to the bowels of hell, where his soul resides. The Ethers, hey Mims, it was Gene Deal that stopped Puff from taking Reckless to his mom's, but Kirk Burroughs told Gene he say Puffy hit Miss Combs. Thank you, the Ethers. Oh, and I forgot to put this up. Guys, we got almost 4,000 in the chat. Definitely hit that like button. It is a free way to support the channel. The making of a mogul. Cast out of Uptown and blamed for a tragedy that claimed 9 lives, Combs could have faded into obscurity, but he was scrappy and determined, quickly securing a reported $10 million deal from Arista Records, Clive Davis, that kept Bad Boy Entertainment alive. Now he was helming a skeleton crew eager to turn artists into superstars and cement hip-hop as a mainstream genre. While the world did not understand the power of hip-hop, I was working it and watching it unfold, says Michelle Joyce, Bad Boy's first director of marketing. I knew beyond a shadow of doubt that if it was going to pop, it was when. It wasn't easy. Hours were brutal, pay was low, and the workload intense. Combs expected his small team to make the impossible possible. Brookshire, the former director of publicity for Arista and Bad Boy, recalls Combs demanding she hire a daredevil to scale a skyscraper to promote the band 112. The next summer, their work paid off with Craig Mack's ubiquitous Flavor in Your Ear and Notorious B.I.G.'s One More Chance. In the next 3 years, Bad Boy would become the premier label for upcoming hip-hop and R&B artists, churning out chart-topping albums from Faith Evans, Totals, 112, and soundtracking clubs and radio stations nationwide. And in Wallace, Bad Boy had a budding superstar. Biggie Smalls, the storytelling genius, was the effortless flow. Still, Combs was volatile. Burroughs said he once saw Combs attack a woman inside Bad Boy office in 1994. He and another ex-employee telling Rolling Stone they had to tear Combs off the woman after hearing screaming and the sounds of shattering glass. The woman declined Rolling Stone's request for comment. Felicia Newsom, the first manager of Bad Boy's recording studio, Daddy's House, says she once held Combs back when he was about to beat this girl's ass after a fight broke out between 2 women. I'm holding him by his waist saying, you need to calm down. This is not your fight. Former Arista intern April Lampros claims Combs turned violent with her too. In a lawsuit filed in May, Lampros alleges Combs attacked her in a parking garage in the mid-90s, forcing her to her knees to perform oral. It was one of 4 horrific sexual assaults she says she endured during her on and off relationship with Combs. As Bad Boy was on the rise, staffers kept Combs' transgressions quiet, whether out of loyalty, fear, or belief that such incidents were rare. Outwardly, he was the label's unceasing hype man, ad-libbing on tracks and making cameos in the artist's videos. Yeah, because he didn't really have any discernible talent. But if he can get himself on a Biggie Smalls track, now he gets some type of credit. He wasn't doing that just to be nice or hype Bad Boy. It was the only way that people were really going to see him as a viable artist because he's not talented in that way. I distinctly remember the day that Clive Davis called and asked me to start garnering press for Puffy just as if he were the artist. Behind his back, I used to call him my problem child, the notorious VIP. Combs got all the press he wanted when he and his LA counterpart, Death Row Records boss Marion Suge Knight, became entangled in a years-long heavyweight hip-hop fight. The pair had once been friendly. Combs even modeled Bad Boy after Death Row, he told Rolling Stone in 1997. But the subsequent rivalry between Biggie and Knight's charismatic superstar Tupac would turn into a victory for both labels. Combs was fond of Secure, admiring his ability to marry street credibility with mainstream appeal, which is why he started doing his ex-girlfriend. He admired him so much, he started sleeping with his ex-girlfriend. We did a whole video on that. It said, none of you are innocent, but you're wishing bad on this man for a fight. No trafficking or anything was found. No, we're going to get to the grand jury in a minute. Cassidy wasn't fighting him back. This was not a fight. This was somebody getting their ass beat. There was no fighting back. In a fight, you fight back. This was abuse. Pac didn't have any kind of respect for Puff, says 90s hip-hop photographer Monique Bunn, who was close with Wallace and other Bad Boy artists. To Secure and even Wallace, Bunn says Combs was a corny executive. Instead, Secure bonded with Wallace, whom he viewed as his peer, Burroughs remembers. As a result, he says, referring to Combs, there was something on the sidelines, jealous. The friendship would be short-lived after Secure was ambushed and shot 5 times in the lobby of Quad Studios in Times Square in 1994. He blamed Combs and the Bad Boy crew for setting him up, which Combs always denied. From there, everything got blown out of proportion. Bad Boy execs started encouraging Wallace to write certain songs. Burroughs says despite the rapper not feeling so beefy with his former friend, With tensions frothing, Combs released Wallace's single Who Shot You in 95. It was widely viewed as a sneering provocation aimed at Shakira, though Wallace wasn't adamant it wasn't. Shakira responded with the furious hit 'em up, pushing hostilities to their peak. So we already know the story of Biggie and Tupac. Multiple reports allege Wallace had been preparing to leave Bad Boy shortly before his death. It didn't help that Combs had been fighting with Wallace's attorneys who were trying to wrest back the rapper's publishing rights. I will never give it up until I'm dead and my bones are crushed into powder, Combs told the lawyers, according to the Big Payback. Biggie was absolutely about to leave Puff, Bun says. I know for a fact because he told me that. Another source says, everybody wanted to leave Puffy. Everybody leaves him behind. Combs capitalized on the shock and sorrow over Wallace's death. Brookshire, who had been traveling in the same SUV as Wallace during press events that day before he died, says Combs denied her request for time off to process her grief. Instead, just 2 weeks after the slaying, she says, Combs ordered her to focus all efforts on Wallace's upcoming album, Life After Death. Combs demanded it be number one, top 10, top 10, top 10, she recalls. It sold nearly 700,000 copies in its first week. When Rolling Stones approached Bad Boy about a cover opportunity a few months after Biggie's murder, Burroughs claims he advocated for the late rapper to take the spot. I was telling Sean, let's make it Biggie. You still have a chance for a cover in the future, Burroughs recalls. He's like, no, he's dead. I'm putting out Combs' debut album, No Way Out, in July. I need to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. Imagine your artist, your best friend being murdered, and Rolling Stone says, we want to do a cover story with Biggie, and you said, nah, he's dead. I'm still alive, and my album's about to come out. Makes you think. Makes you think. Biggie being on that would have pushed Biggie's record further, so it would have made you money. But now, this is why people think that you monetized off this man's death. Who was checking for Diddy's album? Combs got his cover, and 2 years later, he acknowledged how Biggie's death had been big business. I think his passing added to the fame, Combs told Rolling Stone in 99. At least 2 million of the nearly 5 million copies of No Way Out sold were due to his death, straight up. And that doesn't necessarily feel good, but that's the reality. Now, we've gone in depth on this channel about all the people who were in Diddy's orbit, who were no longer with us. I want to say we were almost at like 30 people, and we didn't cover everybody. Even Death Row's fearsome boss, who's currently serving a 28-year manslaughter sentence, had been labeled a boogeyman of hip-hop, said Combs' behavior was distasteful. When Pac left, I didn't pick up a microphone. Knight said on his prison podcast, I picked up the pieces. In the late 1990s, fans regularly gathered outside Daddy's House studio in Midtown Manhattan, angling to see Famous Face or passing along a mixtape. We had built this machine, the hottest hip-hop label in the world, and people started jockeying to get next to Puffy. As the new millennium dawned, hip-hop entered its bling era, with Combs and his artists mining the melodies of 1980s pop songs to guarantee commercial hits. They wore matching shiny suits, spit raps about designer socks and yachts, draped themselves in diamonds, and filled their big-budget video with fawning women and bombastic pyrotechnics. When I found this picture of Mason Diddy, I about fell out. Been doing this for years. The label was thriving off Biggie's legacy and bolstered by rising stars Mace, Shine, and Black Rob. Combs won Grammys and was nominated for his work with outside artists Mariah Carey and R. Kelly. He entered the upper echelons. Can you imagine R. Kelly and Puffy being at one of Puffy's parties? There was a certain narcissism, an attitude of objectifying not just women, but all people, and wanting to be with other men who enjoyed moving people around like chess pieces. The standard bearer of hip-hop as capitalism and social mobility played. Becoming a dominant force in the industry only seemed to amplify Combs' bullying behavior. In 99, he barged into the office of Interscope Records, Steve Stout, and allegedly turned violence. Combs was furious that Stout didn't cut him from a crucifixion scene in Nas X's music video before sending it to MTV. He punched me in the face and then grabbed the phone and bashed me in the head with it. Combs privately settled with Stout, reportedly for $500,000, and dodged a 7-year prison sentence by pleading to a reduced charge of harassment. That summer, Combs released his second album, Forever. The album's critical and commercial failure, it sold less than half of what its predecessor did, hardly diminished Combs' star power. A few months later, in December, Combs was arrested after a nightclub shooting in which 3 people were injured. His newest star, Shine, a.k.a. Jamal Michael Barrow, was convicted of firing the shots and sentenced to 10 years. Combs, meanwhile, was charged with weapons possession and attempted bribery after he and then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez fled the shooting in a Lincoln Navigator that reportedly ran 11 red lights. Combs was facing up to 15 years in prison if convicted. Kevin Rogers Francis, a host at Combs' restaurant, Justin's, who did marketing for Combs' short-lived magazine Notorious, recalls the mogul scrambling for money, shuttering the magazine, and hitting the restaurant's drawers for cash in what Francis presumed was an effort to cover hefty legal bills. We know the story. After a 6-week trial, Combs was acquitted in March of 2001. The prosecutor claimed Combs offered cash to a witness after some said Combs was the shooter. Victim Nathaniel Rubin has been adamant that Combs fired the bullet that tore through her nose. Combs' own driver testified that Combs offered him $50,000, using a $40,000 pinky ring as collateral. I know there's, a price to fame, but goddamn. God damn. We got like 4,000 in the chat. Definitely hit that like button, guys. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We had a goal, I told you, of 175,000, and I think we're now at like 168,000 subscribers. So thank you to each and every one of you guys who choose to spend time with me. And as always, I'm not the channel that says you have to agree with me. He was so volatile, says a source who worked with Bad Boy. He was always on the edge of snapping and being scary. People did whatever he said to stay in his good graces, and Puffy exploited people's desires to be in those environments. After Combs' acquittal in the nightclub shooting in 2001, he reportedly headed straight to the church. He later made a less God-fearing visit to the Peninsula Hotel, where he was throwing a massive bash to celebrate the verdict. It was there that Anna, a freelance graphic designer working with Bad Boy's marketing team, says Combs approached her and began to massage her shoulders. The woman requested to be anonymous, citing fear of retribution. I'm getting touched on my shoulder, my arms, my back. He's like, oh, yeah, you like that. I know you like that. Like, really, really gross, Anna recalls, sharing her story publicly for the first time. I was like, no, not so much. And I sort of floated my way out of there. Anna says she avoided Combs the rest of the night. Weeks later, her boss's girlfriend confided that Combs allegedly approached the boss the night of the party to solicit me for sex, Anna says. A friend confirmed to Rolling Stone that Anna told her about both the encounter and the proposed arrangement when they began working together a few years later. The boss did not return Rolling Stone's request for an interview, and the girlfriend declined to speak. I felt quite unsettled about this for many years. When people ask me about my days at Bad Boy, it's just overshadowed by his crap, Anna said, adding that Combs treated her as though she existed to accommodate his whims. Combs often flaunted his sexual encounters, even if underage artists were around to see. A teenage Usher briefly lived at Combs' New York house in the early 90s as a young Bad Boy protege. Puff introduced me to a totally different set of shit. Sex, specifically, Usher recalls to Rolling Stone in 2004. There was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen. Casey Sheridan, a member of a teenage girl band Dream, recalls the group being summoned for a meeting with Combs to a Beverly Hills hotel bungalow when she was 15 and awkwardly eyeing a purse and a pair of high heels by the front door as the group waited. After 20 minutes, a bathrobe Combs emerged from a nearby room. It's like you can't even keep our innocence. I'm 15, walking into the situation knowing exactly what he was doing next door. Feeding off his fame and power, Combs appeared to be pushing his most sickening impulses in even further. Model Crystal McKinney was photographed during a star-studded Sean John fashion show in 2003. Hours later, according to her recent lawsuit, Combs said she was acting too uptight and pressured her to take a hit from a lace joint. She alleges he then forced her to perform oral on him, despite her resistance. The night sent McKinney into a tailspin of anxiety and depression. That resulted in her almost taking her own life. I had a whole future in modeling mapped out that was stolen from me. Being sexually assaulted and having no recourse is so painful. I felt like I was dying every day because I did not have the strength to come forward. I hope that by speaking out, I can help other survivors come forward and seek justice. Not long after, being the spring or fall of 2003, a 17-year-old girl was one night was out with friends one night in the Detroit area lounge when a man in a suit approached and allegedly introduced himself as Combs' best friend. The man purportedly called Combs and let the girl speak directly with the famed producer, who was twice her age. The man alleged to be former Bad Boy president Harvey Pierre and convinced the girl to board a private jet and take the 2-hour flight to Teterboro, New Jersey, just outside New York City, to meet Combs in person, according to the lawsuit filed December by the girl, now an adult Jane Doe plaintiff. Then a high school junior, she was awestruck by the opportunity, documenting the trip with photos from inside Daddy's house, where she's been seen pretending to record a song, pointing at Combs' initials on the wall and sitting on his lap. The photos were included in the lawsuit to corroborate the woman's allegations that she was gang R-worded that night by Pierre, Combs, and a third unidentified man inside the recording studio. The man claims the men plied her with drugs and alcohol until she was nearly unconscious and unable to consent. As she started to black out, she claims Combs led her to a bathroom where he removed her skirt and underwear and penetrated her from behind. As she drifted in and out, the unnamed assailant replaced Combs and R-worded her from behind as Combs watched. The woman alleged Pierre replaced the second man and R-worded her too. When the men finished, she fell into a fetal position on the floor in excruciating pain and was later escorted out of the building and flown back to Michigan. Combs' lawyer filed a motion to dismiss, calling Joe's account decades-old tale, a baseless claim in an effort to extract an undeserved financial recovery. Pierre did not reply for a request for comment, but previously called the accusation fiction and desperate attempt for financial gain. Drugs were a consistent part of Combs' life. Ventura alleges in her lawsuit, claiming he was addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. She said he had pills and other drugs out in open like candy, and that he would supply alcohol, ecstasy, cocaine, the sedative GHB, which is date, R-word, ketamine, and marijuana during freak-offs. But far from enhancing a party vibe, Ventura and others say these substances only darkened his mood. Once Combs got drunk or high enough, says one frequent party guest in the early 2000s, he would turn violent and loud. He would take his anger out on people. At several points when Combs was extremely intoxicated, Ventura alleges he beat her. An industry source says they once left the party at Combs' home because they felt so uncomfortable watching an aggressive Combs yell at Ventura throughout the night. You could tell in her eyes that she's scared. I'm like, is this normal? Am I tripping right now? Why is nobody saying anything? Are they that scared of this man? In 2015 appearance on The Breakfast Club, Combs described the deal he offers his girlfriends. If I'm in a relationship with you, 25% of your time, you're going to just feel like, oh man, I hate being here. This guy cheated on me. He lied on me. Combs explained while sitting next to his teenage son, Christian. Misa, you didn't have a problem with this interview? I'm sorry. That's Justin. This was Kim Porter's son, who now has his own allegation of R-wording. Somebody. Oh man, I hate being here. This guy cheated on me. He lied on me, Combs explained while sitting next to his teenage son, Christian. But then there's 75% of, I'm going to make you the happiest woman in the whole wide world. I'm going to be there to support your dreams. I'm going to be there to hold you, listen to you. I'm going to be there to be your best friend. And I promise you'll smile the most. You know who I am. This is what it is. Which deal would you choose? The deal that don't come with you beating her ass. That's probably the better deal. The deal that doesn't come with you allegedly R-wording them. There was one term of the deal Combs never disclosed, sources say. The women who signed up for it were not allowed to walk away. Damian Vasquez, a former Bad Boy intern, says after Combs and Lopez broke up, Combs had staffers camp outside MTV's TR studios with signs to win her back. Ventura claimed that every time she hid, Combs' network of operatives found her and implored her to return, including a Bad Boy executive who threatened to withhold the release of her music if she didn't return to Combs. After Ventura left Combs, he tried to paint a picture of a heartbroken, hurt man. A source who knew the couple throughout their relationship says, when the reality was he was a liar and abuser. Burroughs believes Combs' losses at a young age, especially the murder of his father, took a toll in his relationships. He is fortified now with the money and power, but the abandonment and the act of leaving can bring vicious results, and the women catch it the worst. Combs' long-term partner, Kim Porter, who died of lobar pneumonia in 2018, was no exception. The relationship was tumultuous. According to the two sources who claimed Combs physically abused her. I remember Kim used to go through a lot of stuff. Mark Curry says, if you lived around them, you get to see the toxic relationship. I think every relationship he had that I experienced around him was like that. Now, I got a quick question. Why Diddy cannot close his mouth? Did he have veneers like way back in the day that were too big? Or was his teeth just too big? Or was his jaw too narrow? You're getting all these beautiful women, but you a dude who can't even close your mouth. Every picture is like this. Every damn picture. Kim was beautiful. You even broke this woman's nose. Beautiful woman. Combs and Porter first got together in 1994 and dated on and off again until 2007. She ended it for good upon learning Combs had fathered a secret child while she was pregnant with their twin daughters. There were other infidelities, including Combs' affair with Jennifer Lopez. But Combs never let Porter truly move on. He still called 50, 60 times a day. It was like my life was not my own. He was very, very intrusive. In 2000, Porter's fledgling courtship with late music executive Shakir Stewart. Again, Shakir Stewart, somebody who mysteriously passed away by taking his own life, who was in Diddy's orbit. When the industry gathered for L.A. Reid's wedding in Italy that summer, Combs went to Stewart's room after the ceremony and allegedly broke a chair over Stewart's head. Stewart's mother and two of his close friends tell Rolling Stone he left him bleeding on a hotel floor in Italy. Stewart's mother, Portia, says he had to have stitches then, and Combs threatened him, "I'm going to kill you. That's when I said you need to get out of this business. This is crazy." I've noticed him kill a lot of people's spirits. By the mid-2000s, Bad Boy had hemorrhaged several top acts, including Faith Evans, Total, Craig Mack, Foxy Brown. 2 decades later, nearly all the Combs artists had left him. Apart from himself, stepson Quincy Jones, and son Christian, only Janelle Monáe is left on the label. A rep from Monáe did not reply for a request. She's probably looking for another label right now. Rolling Stone reached out to dozens of artists who've been signed to Bad Boy to ask about their experiences with the label. Many declined, with one saying, "I don't have anything nice to say when it comes to my time with Bad Boy. It was not a good experience and one I really don't want to live." Those who did speak to Rolling Stone say they felt their time with the label was squandered through a lack of direction. Several spent years at Bad Boy without releasing any music. Curry, who was affiliated with Bad Boy from 1997 to 2006, has been one of the most outspoken detractors, writing about his dealings with Combs in his book, Dancing with the Devil, How Puffy Burned the Bad Boys of Hip Hop. He says Combs repeatedly promised to produce a solo album, but never gave him a budget. There's different ways you can kill a person. I've noticed him kill a lot of people's spirits. He is this monster. Nothing has changed. This guy has no soul, no duty to anyone, not even his kids. Yeah, because you got with Lori Harvey after Lori was with your son. You don't seem to have allegiance to anybody. Not everyone felt the same. Singer-songwriter Kalina Harper says one of the highs of her life was joining Combs' Diddy Dirty Money. Now, I liked her. I liked her voice. I liked her on Dirty Money. I even had Kalina's mixtapes. But this sounds more like, Kalina, you weren't his type, so he probably didn't do those same things to you, and speaking out is not going to help your career now. I would hear about female artists being asked to do stuff with some of the other male executives, recall former Bad Boy staffer. Like, we can make or break your career. What are you going to do about it? Going to HR was useless. If you want your job, you're not going to complain. On the Call Her Daddy podcast in 2022, Danny DeCane's Aubrey O'Day said she was kicked out of the group because she wasn't willing to do certain things, not talent-wise, but in other areas. She refused to get specific, saying the truth was what you can imagine. There was no Me Too, she added. You signed 1 million NDAs and 1 million contracts that took away your rights. Asked by Rolling Stone to elaborate, Aubrey O'Day said, the answer to what happens if you don't do what the executives want, I'm the full-blown effing story of that. Some who left Combs worried he might try to expel them from the industry altogether. Brooklyn rapper Babs Bunny Wiley of Combs' MTV reality show Making the Band says she was blackballed after leaving the label. And she was definitely talented. Most of them were talented, except Dylon. I don't know how he made the band. Bun, the photographer, claims her gigs instantly dried up after winning a lawsuit against Combs in 2000 for withholding a set of Biggie photos from her. She claims a friend at the Fader magazine told her that Combs personally called the office and said they worked with Bunt. Bad Boy would pull its advertising from the magazine. Talk show host Wendy Williams wrote in her 2004 books that Combs spent a lot of money and used a lot of his influence to try to crush me after she posted an alleged sexual photo of Combs and another man on her website. Combs denied it was him in the photo, and music producer Easy Mo B claimed in February that after he challenged Combs over credit Combs had given him on the producer's song, he noticed certain people wouldn't deal with me. Now, I think Wendy actually later came out and said that didn't he try to, wasn't there like a plan to kidnap her and put her in the back in somebody's trunk? He's someone you don't want to make an enemy out of, says one former employee at Combs. When people do or go against him, that person gets ostracized. For some, the effects of being shunned by Combs were profound. Francesca Spiro joined Bad Boy Entertainment at 98, rising through the company to become Combs' right-hand woman. But Spiro alleged in an age and disability discrimination lawsuit that Combs illegally fired her in 2010. She claimed Combs froze her out after she took time to recover from a hip surgery and voluntarily checked into rehab to treat a lapse in her sobriety. Spiro tried to continue working in the music industry, but opportunities would disappear. A family member says the alleged blacklisting led to significant health issues, which brought her to her end. She was devastated by the way she was treated. She felt betrayed. Spiro died in 2014. Somebody else who died mysteriously in Diddy's orbit. And ex-Bad Boy president Burroughs puts it, Combs never forgets a grudge. If he sees a snag in the sweater, he'll pull. For Combs' 50th birthday party in 2019, revelers gathered at his 17,000 square foot Homely Hills home in a black tie attire and beaded gowns, sipping champagne and ice-cold Ciroc, the vodka brand Combs shilled for a share of profits. They admired the breathtaking Kerry James Marshall painting that Combs had recently purchased for $21 million. Guests Beyonce and Jay-Z rubbed shoulders with Dr. Dre, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kobe Bryant, Cardi B, Snoop Dogg, Kim Kardashian, Usher, and Post Malone. It was a crowning moment for Combs, a testament to the multifaceted success he had worked so hard to achieve. Combs had conquered fashion, winning Menswear Designer of the Year at the prestigious Council of Fashion Designers of America in 2004, acted on Broadway, became the co-owner of De Leon Tequila, founded the Revolt TV cable network, purchased the sports beverage company Aqua Hydrate with Mark Wahlberg, and filmed a cameo in Disney's 2014 movie Muppets Most Wanted. He even legally changed his name to Love. With his hard edges seemingly polished away by his gilded life, Combs appeared untouchable. It was all the perfect cover for his alleged physical and sexual abuse of Ventura. Ventura says in her lawsuit there were multiple witnesses to her alleged mistreatment, but they were too afraid to cross Combs. She claims both Combs, head of security, and his assistant began to cry when they saw the extent of her injuries. Tiffany Red recalled seeing Ventura backed up against the wall with Combs cursing her out. She said Ventura returned later that night, apparently sedated, while Combs screamed at Red, "Tell your girl she wants some birthday dick. I flew all the way from Miami. She gonna get this birthday dick." Red wrote that she told the visibly angry Combs to leave Ventura alone. She recalled Combs ignoring her and driving off Ventura in a golf cart. Combs' physical abuse extended to Ventura's inner circle as well. According to her lawsuit, she claims one of her friends obtained a settlement after a physical altercation with Combs in 2018. After Ventura's birthday party in 2015, a severely intoxicated Combs allegedly dangled another of Ventura's female friends over a 17th floor balcony. Neither friend responded to a request for comment from Rolling Stone. One source who worked with Combs and Ventura says people failed to speak up because Combs doesn't believe in being told no. And if you get caught up in the wrath of that, it can be very dangerous. Let's move on to Gina. One incident in August 2015 allegedly involved Combs ordering Ruta to serve him breakfast in his room and then partaking in sexual activity with model Gina Hun as Ruta dropped the food on the table and fled. The lawsuit was forced into arbitration and ended privately. A lawyer for Ruta did not reply. Now, that was the chef that I told you guys about. Ruta claimed that when she worked for Combs in 2015 and part of 2016, he was only paying her like $10 an hour. He regularly had her serve dishes while he and his guests were engaged in sexual activity. Hun, meanwhile, reemerged in 2019 and claims that Combs had beat her. In an interview with gossip blogger Tasha K., Hun said she started dating Combs in 2014 and that he offered her $50,000 to terminate a pregnancy that year. Hun also said Combs shoved her to the ground and dragged her by her hair in 2018 and in a jealous rage once stomped on her stomach. The allegations barely made a ripple, and Hun went silent after the interview. Hun declined to comment for this article because Hun is back, allegedly, in Diddy's sphere. Guys, we got like, how many in the chat? We got like 4,400 in the chat. We don't even have like 2,000 likes. Liking the video is a free way to support the channel. You know, I never asked you guys for super chats. I appreciate when you do it, but liking the video and subscribing is the best way to support the channel, and I appreciate all you guys. The Detroit area Jane Doe, who sued Combs and Pierre in December, tells Rolling Stone she hopes her lawsuit will hold not just Combs, but also all of those who acted with him, stood silent, and actively covered up his behavior accountable. In her lawsuit, she said her nightmare was not an isolated incident and pointed to another Jane Doe who sued Pierre on November 21st. That woman alleges Pierre groomed and sexually assaulted her when she was his assistant in 2016 and 2017. Then, in early February, Jones, a Love album producer, sued the 73-page complaint filed by lawyer Tyrone Blackburn, which included unusual elements such as photos of the defendants and redacted names that could easily be deciphered. Claimed that Jones worked, traveled, and often lived with Combs while producing 9 songs for the project. Jones describes his experience as a hedonistic hellscape. He claimed to have hundreds of hours of footage and audio capturing Combs, his staff, and his guests engage in serious illegal activity, including the use of distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, marijuana candy, mushrooms, GHB, and Tucci, a pink powder described as a mixture of ecstasy and cocaine. He claimed that at one party in July 2023, Combs fed him ecstasy-laced liquor until he blacked out and woke up naked next to a sex worker. Jones said Combs terrorized him with constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of his anus, and that Combs kept him compliant by displaying weapons, threatening to eat his face, and according to the lawsuit, informing Jones that he was willing to kill his own mother if he must to get what he wanted. Combs' lawyer called the complaint pure fiction. He is this monster. Nothing has changed, Jones told Rolling Stone shortly before filing his lawsuit. This guy got no soul. He has no duty to anyone, not even kids. Combs' associates, meanwhile, has faced allegations of their own. 25-year-old Brendan Paul, who described in his lawsuit as the drug mule, was arrested and charged with cocaine. Is this the end? I'm sorry. In early April, Grace O'Marsha sued Combs and his 26-year-old son Christian, alleging that Christian drugged and attacked her on board a luxury vessel rented for a 2022 vacation in St. Martin while filming a since-scrapped family reality show for Hulu. According to NBC, O'Marsha can be heard in an audio recording asking Christian to stop touching her leg. She claims Christian later tried to force her to perform oral, allegations he denies through his lawyer. Christian Combs' lawyer, Aaron Dyer, did not reply to a request for comment on the allegation, but previously claimed O'Marsha's complaint was rife with manufacturer lies and irrelevant facts. On May 4th, Combs posted a video of himself standing by the ocean, staring down a tropical monsoon with his arms outstretched as he recorded voice of the spiritual advisor T.D. Jakes booms. Not hysterical, not frantic, not anxious, not fretful, but steady in the storm. Good old T.D. Jakes. What do you say about Wendy? Oh, okay. No, Wendy's husband was going to kidnap Miss Jones. Got it. That was a crazy time in New York music. Miss Jones, Wendy. It's a good time. I still listen to Miss Jones today. She has like a YouTube now. While Combs gathers support where he can, the new allegations have reshaped his world. After stepping down from Revolt, he reportedly sold his shares in March. Guys, we'll do... This is a lot. Let me get to the grand jury. Federal investigators are preparing to bring accusers of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs before a federal grand jury. Two sources familiar with the probe tell CNN, signaling the U.S. Justice Department is moving toward potentially seeking an indictment for Combs. Possible witnesses have been notified by investigators that they could be brought in to testify in front of a federal grand jury in New York City, according to one source. Bringing individuals who have filed civil lawsuits against Combs before a grand jury would mark a significant escalation in the government's ongoing investigation involving the producer and Bad Boy Records founder. Combs has been named in 8 civil lawsuits since November, 7 directly accusing him of sexual assault. One of the 8 lawsuits filed by former girlfriend Cassie Ventura has been settled. Another lawsuit accused his son Christian Combs of sexual assault, and Sean Combs is accused of aiding and abetting. A spokesperson for the Homeland Security Investigator Agency declined to comment on the existence of a grand jury, but noted the investigation remains ongoing. These potential witnesses have not yet been prepped for testimony, but sources told CNN, cautioning that HSI investigators are still in the process of gathering evidence and questioning potential sources of information in their federal probe into Combs. One source said investigators are being thorough and taking their time to ensure that an indictment, should there be one, is bulletproof. Now, this is where things get a little bit murky. The LA prosecutors said that they could not prosecute Diddy for that video of him beating Cassie. But Cassie has said that she will work with investigators and, the grand jury and give her testimony. So we could be seeing them talk to Cassie, all of his accusers, getting all this information from Tyrone Blackburn, because people like Little Rod have recordings. People always said, Puffy's not going to go down. I've maintained that Puffy's already gone down because his source of income is leveraging his name, and his name ain't shit anymore. I hope Cassie tells it all. I hope all the accusers tell it all. And I hope more people come forward with their stories now that they see that you can speak out on Diddy and you won't end up. What's the mob term? Is 86th. If you don't know, when people said we're going to 86 you, it means drive you 8 miles out of the city and bury you 6 feet deep. So, yeah. One source said investigators are being thorough. Grand jury comprised of ordinary citizens are critical tools used by prosecutors, providing both an investigative function in approving the subpoenaing of documents and witnesses and a vote on whether to criminally charge suspects. The use of a grand jury signals a particular case has moved beyond the preliminary stage where investigators generally access whether possible violations of the law are believed to have been committed. Feds have interviewed multiple Combs accusers. Combs' homes in Los Angeles and Miami were searched back in March. At that time, CNN reported that the rapper and entrepreneur was a target of a federal investigation carried out by the Department of Homeland Security team that handles human sex trafficking crimes, and the ongoing investigation included a focus on sex trafficking. Now, additional sources told CNN that the majority of the plaintiffs who have filed suits against Combs have been interviewed by federal investigators. Combs has vehemently denied the claims from many of the civil suits, but has not responded to the allegations. In addition to human trafficking, HSI also investigates narcotic smuggling and other organized criminal activity. It's much bigger than just these lawsuits. One of the sources familiar with the scope of the investigation said, federal investigators are now digging deeper, and some of the accusers have been questioned numerous times, the source said. A second source corroborates this current state of the investigations. Accusers who have spoken to federal agents during the investigation have been actively cooperating with investigators, with some handing over evidence they believe may be helpful in the probe. One source said, investigators are also bringing in new individuals for questioning, including corroborating witnesses of accusers. Here's the thing. Everybody in that grand jury then seen him put his hands on Cassie now. I wouldn't be surprised if Combs' teams argues that he cannot get a fair trial now. Federal agents are in possession of video taken inside Combs' homes. It's unclear whether the video was seized during the raids or whether investigators obtained video from individuals they have been questioning. They are contacting people that they found on the tapes. At least one male sex worker who claims he has been victimized by Combs has been questioned during the investigation. Are y'all hearing this again? One male sex worker who claims that he was violated by Combs, has been questioned during the investigation, one source said, adding that this individual was seen in footage that is in possession of the federal investigators. In some of the lawsuits against Combs, accusers have alleged that they were informed after the fact that they were recorded having sex without giving their consent to be filmed. Combs has not responded to the specific accusations, but he dismissed all alleged wrongdoing in a blanket statement. In some of the civil suits, Combs is alleged of drugging multiple accusers. In the two most recent lawsuits filed against Combs within the past week, a former fashion student, April Lampros, and former model, Crystal McKinney, both accused Combs of drugging them. In Lampros' suit, she claims that Combs forced her to take ecstasy and then demanded to have sexual intercourse with one of the former girlfriends before taping. Before R-wording her. That former girlfriend was Kim Porter. Combs was also accused in the civil suit filed last November of intentionally drugging and sexually assaulting Joy Dickerson Neal, and when she was a college student. Though his legal team has filed a motion to dismiss portions of the suit, Dickerson Neal also accused Combs of revenge P, claiming that Combs secretly recorded their sexual assault. Days later, a male friend revealed to Dickerson Neal that he had viewed it. The male friend was a member of Jodeci, right? It was Jodeci. Combs' team did not respond to the specific allegations. People wanted to know when Puffy is going to go down. If they are interviewing these people, it could be Odie, it could be another male sex worker. Did somebody say I'm learning something new? Did he do anything right? Most importantly, did he do anybody right? I've not heard anybody come out with any great stories about Diddy. We already knew that he wasn't allegedly paying his artists. Let's see, where are we? Thank you for gifting a membership, sassy girl. Christian says, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy with his Puffy D. Thank you, Christian. Be Blessed says, we eating lunch with 3,900 in the chat. Hit the like, fam. Yeah, definitely. Y'all know I don't do more than an hour, and now I'm almost at an hour and 26 minutes, and I haven't eaten. Thanks for the super chat. She says, G. Depp wanted to go back to work with Puffy. He's the only one. Jersey Girl, I wouldn't consider his dad being killed abandonment. It's not like he had a choice. They say his dad was a rat. We all know his dad worked with Frank Lucas, one of the biggest gangsters in that area. Carol Chamberlain, thank you, Mims, for all you do. I appreciate you. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate you. I see you in the chat. Let's see. Where are we? And shout out to Beverly and Jones for the super chats. I appreciate you guys. Guys, y'all know I do an hour only, but this has been an hour and a half. So if anything else pops off, I'll come back, but I probably won't. I think my sister wants to do on her channel the Love After Lockup review tomorrow. This was long, but y'all got the information. Do with it as you may. I'm going to see you guys later. And again, in the comments, I like it when y'all don't agree with me. Not agreeing is the spice of life. Have a good day, y'all.